Alright, so I have a match here against my friend James. He's on Blackbeard. I'm currently on Yellow Kid. It's something I've been wanting to test. I feel like it's definitely an L refugee deck in the sense of if you played an L and the Kingdom Come hit kind of made you not want to play it anymore, I think Kid is where you're going to go, or maybe you're just tired of the same old Yellow. But anyways, so me and James are checking our opening hands here. I lose the die roll. James ends up taking first, which originally I thought would be a problem for me, but in all honesty, the better curve for Kid is second. You get your Cavendish, your Basils, your Shirahoshis, and then your aces on curve. Yeah, the odds not bad because you have 7 cost Law and Gadatsu as well. But anyways, let's get into it. So James drops the Lafitte, passes. Pretty much all he can do on his 1 Don turn if he doesn't have stage. I start off with almost not the ideal play. Ideally, I would want to drop Shirahoshi here, but a Searcher's fine too. I want to see a Basil early so I can drop that on 4. Unfortunately, I don't see it, but we do see a 2K and X Drake, which also has a great secondary effect for the Blackbeard matchup, which is an Activate main, rest of 4 cost or lower. This helps with swinging into a Burgess before it's big, resting Lafitte's or dot Q's. Ideally, Vasco shot. That's what you're gonna use it for. Yeah, I named a bunch of things, but you're gonna do Vasco. So James searches here. Ideally, he wants to find a stage. The stage will help him build his trash as well as cycle through his deck to find the pieces he needs to have a better play into this matchup. After that, he swings 5. I guard out strictly for the fact of I don't want to get too low early against Blackbeard on the off chance that I am fending off back-to-back Burgess swings next turn. Or, not next turn, late game. So I guard out there. Sorry about that. So James pitches Burgess, finds a Burgess. I can only assume that the other options were not ideal in that scenario. But he's going to go into a My Era as well, which will allow him to dig deeper into his deck while building that trash. Uh, we see a Finger Pistol go to the trash, which is kind of okay for us because that means some of our earlier bodies are safer now. So he passes back over to me. On my 4 down turn, I don't really have much to do, but I do swing my Luffy into his Lafitte. We don't want to have Blackbeard getting their searches off consistently. We want to drain that hand as much as possible. With nothing else to do, I just swing big pass. I leave 1 Don up here because I do run a 1 Don event. On the off chance I see it and it can help me stay healthy. Ideally, I probably should have just swung into the Blackbeard with it. It's not too big a deal because an 8 swinging a Blackbeard is a lot. They don't run a lot of 2Ks. So James does search into Black Hole here, which is not good for me. That means my Basils are now pretty much irrelevant. They won't get their on KO effect, and they're easily clearable without him needing any reduction. So we see James finds a Van Augur here. Not ideal for us, again, just simply due to the fact that he's finding his removal pieces. Van Augur and a Black Hole means now even a big body has potential to be removed. And he ends up establishing a Burgess. This is what I was talking about earlier. Burgess is kind of a scary tool here in Blackbeard just due to the fact that it gets bigger based on the trash, which means eventually these are huge swings coming at you without a need for Don commitment. So James is going to leader effect right before my 6 Don turn, which is pretty good because I am running the Nico Robin. I'm not running 4, I'm just running 2. I don't like it as a 4 of, but with no on plays, I can just drop Basil. I establish a big vanilla body here. So I don't leader effect here, not intentionally, but simply for the fact that I could not remember if you could leader effect with a active character. I wasn't sure if you needed to act or restand one. We end up looking it up. You don't need to restand it. I just was lacking on my information at the time as the set was still fresh. So, with nothing else to do, I just pass it over. James searches with stage. Again, Blackbeard's going to be trying to build their pieces here. They're going to be looking for removal. They're going to be looking for 2Ks if their hand is lacking. at some point they will need to be on the defensive, especially if they're not seeing those 10 drops. You can see on screen. So this is where we discussed why I didn't use leader effect, and a friend of ours let me use his phone to just look up the ruling to confirm. We're still trying to play through while we're looking it up. It is what it is. Uh, so he swings 5. I take it because at this point I'm trying to find my big bodies. I need to start getting the big removal or the hard removal bodies out. That way I can hopefully keep a board against Blackbeard, because that's what's going to keep me in this game, especially with no on plays. So I'm not going to be able to heal through the massive damage that will be coming through later. I should have guarded the 5 and taken the 7 instead of giving 2 cards. That's just poor sequencing on my part. So James establishes a Docu and Van Augur here. So he's getting his removal established early. We know he has the spells in hand, or at least a spell in hand. So this is good. He can choose his removal targets as needed. And it's not the worst for me. So I take a while on this turn just thinking through my options. In all honesty, I probably should not have taken this long. I really only had 2 real options. The first being swing big into Burgess, so I'm not staring down multiple Burgesses later on in the game. But also, this will leave me some Dawn left over to establish X-Drake. In reality, thinking about this option so long is the worst, because what it does is just X-Drake dies. So I instead swing out 6 in the lead, 8 in the lead, get that health as low as possible, and then I drop the Law. Nice big body, put a little bit of fear into Blackbeard. So both cards are pretty much easily. The thought process is here is, while both are easily removable with Van Augur, Black Hole, I'm hoping that he would want to remove the Law and then swing into the Cavendish, which would be easier to defend. And that will also keep my life healthy. Alright, so I passed it over to James after taking forever making that decision. So in this scenario here, James is on 1 life, no blockers, and I have 2 big bodies staring him down plus leader swing, and I'm pretty healthy at this. So it's not the ideal situation for him. He kind of has 2 options here. The first would be blocker up. Since I'm so healthy, my X-Drake is not relevant at the moment. The other is to remove a body while also establishing his own. So that's where we would Van Augur into a Black Hole or Tempest Kick, or sorry, Finger Pistol, not Tempest Kick. And then maybe Kuzan to draw while also summoning a Burgess from trash, or maybe a blocker from trash. He does have the Vasco in there we saw earlier. So we're pretty much on the Blackbeard's on the defense right now. They're on the back foot. He has to try and play to survive rather than play to win at this point. If he can whittle me down and get some Burgesses out, it could turn in his favor, just simply due to the fact of those will be big bodies. Like right now, currently the 1 Burgess is an 8k, no Dawn commitment. This means I will either need to give a lot of cards in order to stay healthy or drop down to low health. Neither is ideal. If I give up too many cards to stay healthy, that means later on small swings go through. If I go low on health in order to not waste cards, I risk the chance of going too low and 1 swing requiring my entire hand. So it's all about trying to figure out what you can do with your next turn. Here, like I said, he decides that he needs to play to survive. So he clears my body, plays the Kuzan. Right now he's asking me how many cards I have in hand. I'm just spreading it out. So he swings, I counter out. And then the Kuzan ends up being used in order to summon the Vasco shot. This is just due to, again, the need for survival. There's not too much else he can do in this scenario. He could try and swing into my Cavendish, but it's pretty easily defendable at this point. His best bet, unfortunately, is to probably try and start whittling away at my hand slash life and hope that he can slingshot it back from the brink of defeat because it's looking kind of rough right now. Here he's debating on if he wants to swing into my Cavendish to try and get a board clear or if he wants to start targeting my hand and life. We just talk about the potential pros and cons of it. We're both used to playtesting with each other, so we even in local tournament we'll try and discuss the best turn, best optimal plays. Um, but so we'll just speed it up a bit here. He does decide to swing, and I take simply for the fact of one, I see it's a Cavendish, so I have the potential to play another big body, but two, this sets my leader effect back live. Kid does need to be able to flip a life card face up in order to restand a supernova and make it a blocker. So when playing against Kid, if you're in a good spot and you're comfortable not swinging at them and they have a face up life, you could potentially ignore that life and establish your board ready for the counterattack. You just have to be careful because you do run the risk of an 8 cost, or not an 8 cost Kid, sorry, 7 cost Law and a 10 drop ace healing them, giving them a face down life as well, and building up that life again. So now they're tankier and they have the defensive wall again. I just swing out, play ace, not much to do with no on plays, and then I restand a Cavendish with my leader effect. I love the fact that we see Satori here, just for the fact of now this is threatening the Blackbeard even more. If he swings at me, I am for sure having another body. So this is going to make him second guess his swings, as well as potentially not swing at all, right? Because it's bad enough that he is at 1 health and I have 3 swings staring him down. If he can't remove at least one of them and he swings into me and gives me that 4th swing, this guarantees game no matter what happens here. So I'm just confirming what can and can't be summoned off Kuzan there. So he drops the Kuzan. Obviously, he's going to try and go for a draw. With Kuzan in his hand, that means he had a brick. Hopefully, the Kuzan can draw him into a 2K or just counter, period, right? And potentially also brings back that Vasco shot again. With the position he's in, he has to hopefully clear a body as well as play the Vasco shot. With the Don he has, it's not really possible, and he can't swing into anything due to me restanding my Cavendish at the end of turn. So he's going to have to Kuzan into a Vasco shot again, potentially drop some searchers to find some cards. So he does have the finger pistol. So he Van Augers into finger pistol and clears my Cavendish. Great. And he used the Kuzan into the Vasco shot. So he now has 2 swings that he has to guard against or worry about. I will have no rushers since he will turn off my on plays again if he can survive this. He discusses that he's worried that there might be a trigger that would pop the Vasco. I say with yellow, you always have to worry about triggers. He decides just to go for it. So he swings, and obviously I take here because I know I'm sitting on my X-Drake, and I'm going to risk that Vasco and go for game. So I draw for turn after he passes it over. I take the 3 Don, set him down. That Drake is coming out. And the great part again, as I said earlier, Drake is an activate main. So I rest him in order to rest the Vasco. He now has only 3 cards in hand. So that means I can do 3 big swings and they're guaranteed to hit. I do 8 here because if he has 2 2Ks, they're going to come out. Yep, 2 2Ks. That leaves him with 1. I just have to swing 7 here with the Kid. And with 2 cards in hand, there's no way he can guard out of a 12 swing. He decides to activate the Liberation trigger and negate the effect of Ace. But luckily for us, we played Ace earlier and we swing it out and get the game.